do Facebook Live while we're on YouTube, okay? So just to let people know we're on here having a conversation.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. Hey, hey, hey. Good evening. Good evening. Hey, listen, this is my friend Pearl, and she and I are doing a conversation this evening about business, entrepreneurship, transitioning in and out of entrepreneurship, women in leadership, maybe. I think we're going to get into a lot of fun topics. So, hey, just listen in. We're going to have a good conversation, guys. So, we're live on YouTube. All right. Also, so we're just doing Facebook Live as well.
Well, students of A Lady Named Pearl Modeling and Leadership Academy, it's such a pleasure for me to even just have these couple of minutes of talking to this beautiful spirit. Shout out to Veronique Morrison, who's been
Shout
working
out to Veronique.
to connect us for the longest. But Veronique, thank you so much. So students, we have the amazing Doretha White. This lady has a plethora of talent. So for those of us that have many gifts, she is the perfect person for us to talk to figure out how we balance all of these gifts. So in terms of
Yeah.
gifts, she is an entrepreneur, a business coach, a writer, publisher, luxury travel advisor, a course creator, and a philanthropist. But on top of those things, she is also a wife, a mom, and a sister. Family first. Family is
Yes.
so important.
Yes.
She grew up in Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and she holds a degree from Virginia Tech and the College of William and Mary. All right, students, help me welcome the amazing and beautiful Doretha White to Leading Ladies. Thank you, Doretha.
Hi, students. Good evening. Good evening. It's my pleasure. I'm so excited. Pearl, it's so funny. You and I met in a coffee shop probably 15 years ago. We exchanged phone numbers. I remember, like thinking, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I just want to know who she is. She's so cute. We exchanged phone numbers in a coffee shop in College Park. And I think I went into a bookstore once. I saw your book. I was like, I know her. I met her in a coffee shop, right? And then last year, when Veronique mentioned your name to me, I said, let me see if I still have her phone number in my phone from literally 15 years ago. And I did. So this is such a God moment. It's such a full circle moment. So it's my pleasure. It's so nice to see you.
Wow, that is wonderful. It's interesting how little trickles, you get what I'm saying? Just little
Breadcrumbs. I call them breadcrumbs.
breadcrumbs. Okay, yes, 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 yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yes.
That is an excellent way to put it. So, Doretha, in terms of breadcrumbs, and when we talk about A Lady Named Pearl Modeling and Leadership Academy, it's
Yes.
helping girls and women come out of their shells, um, pay attention to their intuition, and look out for those breadcrumbs and believe in them.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So today with our Leading Ladies series, we like to talk about entrepreneurship because all of our students have to start a business in the program,
Oh,
meaning
I
like,
love it.
yes,
Yes.
become entrepreneurs. And I saw all of these amazing things on your website, Doretha, in terms of you pulling entrepreneurs together. Pulling entrepreneurs together.
Mm-hmm.
You all
Mm-hmm.
forgive me. I need to turn my phone off. Pulling entrepreneurs together.
Yeah.
And in terms of being a business coach, that's one thing. But let's start with your journey, Doretha. I know
Yeah.
Virginia Tech and then also to William and Mary. So tell
Mm-hmm.
me your journey as a professional and how you came about becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I think I have a really unique journey. Being an entrepreneur was never my goal, first of all. It was never anything I dreamed of doing, not at all. So my career path began after I went to college. I went to Virginia Tech. As you said, I graduated in 1991. My mom was a teacher. So I was one of those people that kind of meandered around, thinking about what I wanted to do. I thought law at one point, I thought journalism at one point. The one consistent thing throughout all the goals and things that I had was speaking. I knew that my skill set was, writing, speaking, communicating, and I used to feel like, man, I don't really know how to do anything else except for talk, and I thought it really wasn't a skill until I realized it's a huge skill. Communication is a huge, huge skill.
And let me
So
stop you there if you
yeah,
don't mind,
no,
because I'd
please.
like to know, how did you know communication was your skill set? Because sometimes the world will tell us, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we believe it in ourselves. How did you know that was
Because I
something?
got in trouble almost every day in school for talking too much. I was always talking. I was always, that was the one thing I got written up for every report card: talks too much, talks too much, talks too much, right? Literally. And so I just knew that and the feedback I would get from people, I was always kind of funny, entertaining. I just love to chit chat. I can talk to literally anyone. I have one sister who's 12 years older than I am, so she was like the built-in babysitter when I was born. So she spent a lot of time with me when I was little, and she still says to me, she would ask me question after question, what happened in daycare, and I would never stop talking. I would just answer 12 questions about what happened in daycare. And so I just love to talk. I love to communicate with people. I love meeting people. I never really meet a stranger. So it was just a natural thing for me. All right. Um, and then in high school, my favorite teacher told me I was a good writer. And I never knew that. I never knew that I was a good writer. And so my writing got some attention. Won some awards in high school for my writing, and I was asked to start writing on the school newspaper. So those two things, it was kind of like I launched off into college knowing, okay, I'm a pretty good communicator and I'm a good writer. All right, what can I do with that? So I went in as I think I went in as a journalism major. Got kind of chickened out of that because of some stuff that was said. And then I went, okay, I know what I'll do now. I'll be a lawyer. And then I got scared about going to law school. So I was like, and so then I just kind of meandered around in a few other majors and landed on education because my mom was a teacher. And I thought, well, I can always start as a teacher. If I hate it, I can always change careers down the road. It doesn't mean I have to do it forever. What happened was I became a teacher and I loved it. I absolutely, it was like, oh my gosh, I love kids. I love teaching. I love taking difficult concepts and um, making it easy for people to understand. Again, using those communication skills. So it just felt like, the right place for me to be. So I think I would have taught forever. But when I took my second teaching job in Williamsburg, Virginia, which is a whole nother story how I moved there, but I moved away from home. That was my first big move away, independent kind of thing. And I was teaching. I thought, look, a little voice in the back of my head said, you're not married, you don't have any kids, you should go to grad school while you have time, while you have the chance, right? So I just did. I just decided, hey, I'm going to go to grad school, right? So I enrolled at William and Mary, got a master's in educational leadership, didn't really think too much about it. The next year, my principal came to me and he said, our school is really small. I've never had an AP position, granted to me. He said they're going to give me one next year because they're going to add a few hundred extra kids to the school. I want you to apply. I said, me? I was 27, right? And I was like, what? So that was very unexpected. And I got the position as assistant principal. So I was an AP at 28. I was an
And what's
AP
the
for,
average age, would
oh,
you say,
yeah, like
for
40s.
I hear you.
So I was literally one of the youngest people on staff and the second person in command in a building.
So what were you teaching what were you teaching prior
Fifth
to?
grade, all subjects.
Okay.
Fifth grade. So it was a learning experience for me because I suddenly went from these people were my colleagues to now they are on my staff, and I had to learn how to balance those relationships. And some people feeling, oh, okay, so now she thinks she the big boss. She can't hang out. She can't. I had to deal with some of that, but I had to grow up quickly and realize I am a leader. No, there's certain things I'm not going to be able to do any longer as colleagues. I'm not going to be stuck up, but I am the second person in command in the building, and I have to tell people what to do, and I have to, be a leader. So that was a huge learning opportunity for me, and I grew up. I really feel like I grew up during that time frame. So also during that time, I met my husband. We were dating during that time. We were dating during that time frame, and one of the first things he said to me was, I always wanted to live in Atlanta. I think I want to move to Atlanta. And we kind of had this conversation, right? So I also had visited Atlanta once before. I liked it well enough to say, shoot, why not? We're young, we might as well. So we relocated to Atlanta we got married in 99. We moved to Atlanta in 2000. So I've been here now for 24 years. So Atlanta's home. When I got here, I had another AP job, Clayton County. Jonesboro High School was my first job.
Okay.
I was blessed enough. My principal became assistant superintendent. And so again, someone recognized my leadership and she promoted me to a principal position within her part of the school district. So I became principal at West Clayton Elementary School at the age of 32. And so I was I've always been sort of fast tracked. It was not on purpose. It wasn't like I was trying to, climb that ladder. I was just doing my best. I was just, being a leader, doing what I was supposed to do, being professional, trying to grow, trying to learn, and the doors opened, you know. So that's what a big message I have for young women is, you really don't have do crazy, wild, cuckoo things to be promoted. You know, just focus on being the best version of yourself and increase your skills and your professionalism and dress how you're supposed to dress and carry yourself the way you're supposed to carry yourself and speak the way that you need to speak in order to command respect. And when you do that, you'll get noticed. You don't have to do some of the things I think sometimes people do extra stuff, but just be the best version of you. That's really a core message that I have for everybody.
I love that message. And also, no shortcuts, right?
Mm-mm.
Get the work done, push through it. So that's beautiful. Okay, so we go from
So we came
assist,
here to Georgia. Yeah.
yeah, assistant principal to principal, and then how we're still working on how do we get into entrepreneurship,
Well,
from
as
those
I
different educational
as
spaces.
I said, it was never my dream, right? It was just this thing that happened. I was a principal, and my husband was a teacher in Clayton County at the time, and he was teaching. And I think at the time he had the valedictorian in his class, salutatorian, all these top kids. He was teaching AP classes. So he said to me one day, he said, I think this is so strange. It's a lot of kids are coming to me and they're asking me, how do I apply to college, Mr. White? I need to go see, I haven't seen Georgia Tech. I'm interested by I know it's 30 minutes down the street, but I have never seen it. So he started taking kids after school to visit colleges. And it was like carloads of kids, like, and then he'd start renting a van every now and then to take a few extra kids. And then he said to me, honey, I really think that this might be a business. And I went, oh, good for you, because I'm not interested in owning a business. And at that time, we decided that he was going to step out and start the business, and I was going to keep working and hold down the bills, and we would figure it
Okay.
out. That was how it was supposed to happen. Well, as as that saying goes, man plans and God laughs,
Oh,
right?
you know what? That's funny.
We plan and God's like, right, I got a whole nother thing that's coming. So at the time, I was working, as I said, in Clayton, and Clayton went through a huge, big problem. The school district lost their accreditation. I don't know if you remember that, Pearl, but that was
Mhm.
a while back. And so the school district lost the accreditation, and the position that I held at that time was something called teacher development specialist. I wasn't a principal any longer. I'd moved into a central office role, right? So I was a teacher development specialist. When the county lost their accreditation, there were a lot of what we call unintended consequences to that. And one of those things was that they lost all their grants, like all the external grants went poof overnight. So they called my whole team. There was 15 of us. They called us in and they said, "Hey guys, we got some bad news. So yeah, you guys know how we lost the accreditation." We're like, "Yeah, it doesn't affect us." They're like, "Yeah, actually it does." So our grant is gone, and this whole department is going to be closed down. And you can either go back into the classroom as a teacher or you can resign. So I didn't want to go back into the classroom as a teacher because by that point I'd been out of the classroom for 10 years. And in a moment, I had to just make a decision about what I was going to do with my future. And I don't even to this moment, I can't really tell you where I got the courage to quit my job, but I literally said, thank you for the opportunity, but I feel like there's a different path that I'm supposed to be on. I just didn't feel like I was supposed to go back into the classroom as a teacher. So I, hands trembling, I called my husband on the way home and I went, guess what? I think we're both going to be entrepreneurs. So that is how we launched off into our business. It was not planned or expected, but it was one of those just
Mm.
rearrangement of life. And that's how we started. We started off really small, really humble, as I said, car trips, van trips. And the more people started to hear about what we were doing, the more interest, built in what we were doing. And so now, 24 years, yeah, 20, no, I'm sorry, 21 years later, we have taken over 50,000 um, young people on college tours and educational field trips. We take about 2,000 to 2,500 kids every single year.
Doretha, that is so amazing. I mean, when I hear that number, I'm just like,
Yeah.
first of all, 50,000. Then when you even break it down to 2,000 or 2,500 a year, how do you pull that together?
Yeah. Well, okay, so we have a lot of repeat clients, right? So, okay, if we're gonna sort of shift and speak about entrepreneurship, right? My core message to my entrepreneurs in your class, the young ladies, as well as my listeners on Facebook, I've got some folks listening over here. Do the work and do a great job. One of the things that crushes my spirit is when people say to me, or people say in my hearing, I can't stand, black businesses because you know how they do, and I'm like, no, I don't know how they do because I know how I do. And what I do is my absolute best. And if something doesn't work out well, for one of our tours, we are breaking our butts, to try to make it right for people. And I think people should have give a little bit more grace to entrepreneurs because most of us are out here we didn't have, we're not like trust fund babies. We didn't have parents to invest $1 million into us. We're just out here doing the darn thing. So Michael and I, we just started, right? We started with nothing, but an idea, and work ethic. So, you just have to get a clear vision of what it is that you are trying to do. And, it's going to shift around sometimes. Yeah, our whole goal was to work with high school kids. That was it. We were like, we're working with high school kids because they really need our help. They really need our attention. Michael was a high school teacher, so that's where the whole focus was initially. But remember, my whole background was elementary. So one of my friends at the time who was an elementary principal, she was one of my former colleagues, April, shout out to April. April said to me one day, she said, you guys still doing those college tours? I said, oh yeah, that's what we're doing that. And she said, well, I got some grant money, from the such and such foundation, and I want to send my third, fourth, and fifth graders on a college tour to my alma mater, UGA. And I said, oh, honey, I'm sorry. We don't take elementary kids. She said, my kids want to see colleges too. Why not? Why can't you take my kids? And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't really have a good reason for why we can't take them. Let me talk to Michael and see. So I said it to him. He's like, yeah, all right, let's try it and see how it works. Flexibility. Okay, that's another key word. So we did 3 days consecutively. All of her third graders on a Wednesday, all of her fourth graders on a Thursday, all of her fifth graders on a Friday, 150 kids each day. And we just turned a major corner. We can take elementary kids. And so now we take more elementary and middle school students on tours than we do high school.
And that was your initial mission.
Yeah, that was our initial thought, was high school only. But again, you gotta kind of listen. You can't be too rigid. And there's an old song that says, give the people what they want." That's a huge message for entrepreneurs. Sometimes entrepreneurs can be so rigid about what we think people should have, and it's maybe not what they want from you. So the better thing to do is to sit back and think and just listen to people. and ask questions. Ask your potential clients, what do you think would be a great way? What's another venue you'd like to see kids go to? That's how we started doing educational field trips to Chattanooga, Birmingham, Montgomery, Orlando, all these places that we can go within a day. We started doing because people gave us those suggestions, not because we're just two brilliant Einsteins and we thought of it all. No, we listened to what people were asking for, and we gave the people what they wanted. So that's another major message to entrepreneurs is, don't assume that you know what people need, and don't assume that you know what they want. Ask questions and then create what it is that they want from you.
I think that's a huge message. Listen to your market, listen to your
Listen
people.
to your market. Absolutely.
100%. I know I've been caught up in, no, this is what I'm going to give you. This is what I want. This is what I believe.
Do it. Do it. And it's so natural because as an entrepreneur, you're a visionary, right? A lady named Pearl, that's you. It's your business. The business embodies who you are. But at the same time, you don't have a business if you don't have customers. If you don't have clients, you have a hobby, you got something you like doing, but you've got to have customers and clients and raving fans, people that come back to you again and again and again because they got so much out of whatever it is that you gave them the first time around. That's the main thing with us doing these tours. I have to tell you that by the grace of God, we've never had a broken bone. We've
Mhm.
never had a flat tire. Now we've had a broken down bus one or two times, but we go right into problem solving mode. What do we? Buses are mechanical, so it's not like you can do anything to prevent some issues, but it's how you handle the issues that come up. Do you just throw up your
Mhm.
hands and go, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do," or do you put on your fix it hat and figure out what needs to be done to make it better for your customers and your clients? So, we have lots and lots and lots of schools and groups that come back to us year after year after year. We're not like tilling the hard, dry ground every year for new business. We really don't have to. If we just repeat the same people we served last year, this year, we're good, you know, and add a few new. Um, what's new for us is we have a lot of grant funded programs now. So we're bringing a lot of kids from the West Coast. We brought, gosh, almost 500 kids from California last year to tour
Wow.
Howard, Hampton, I think that, yeah, Norfolk State, Virginia State. They went to some Alabama schools. So those three, no, four California groups that we brought last year, they're already on calendar for this coming year. They're already locked in. And so when you do a good job, people will call on you again. But I will say this, you're only as good as the last service you provided, right? So if you say, well, we did a good job for you back in 2016, you're like, yeah, but guess what happened in 2019? So people have a short memory. So you have to maintain at a level of excellence so that they will continue to utilize your service or your purchase your product again and again and again.
Mhm. Dor- Doretha, thank you for expounding on raving fans. People that come back again and again and again, right? And the importance of over delivering with your product as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So can you talk about, sometimes when people see entrepreneurs, they think that we're living the dream life, that, everything is great. Can you talk about what you may need mentally
Mm,
to prepare yourself as an entrepreneur? Some tips on how to
yeah.
mentally stay stable.
Hmm. I can't even emphasize the importance of mental health as it pertains to entrepreneurship. And I wish I had this little graphic that I love to look at sometimes. It's sort of the way that most people view entrepreneurship. You're thinking, oh, everything's just gonna go just like this. Just my idea is gonna flow and everything. No, Entrepreneurship is this. It's just constant. And some, if you're not holding yourself mentally, responsible for, you know, your, let me rephrase that. You've got to find some ways to um, keep your peace. You got to
Mhm.
step away from it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're too close, and it's like you have to take a break away from it to be able to kind of see the forest for the trees. So let me give you an example. Um, a client calls up and says, "Hey, I got a grant. I want you to do X, Y, Z." You're like, ah, "I'm winning! I'm winning!" And the next day, a client that you've had for 5 years says, "I found somebody that I think is going to do better for me. Sorry. Good luck to you." And you're like, "Oh my God, that was my favorite client." And then the next day, so it's that. And so if you don't find a way to stabilize your emotions through the waves of it all, you're just going to be, as
Mhm.
the Bible says, tossed to and fro. You're just going to be just like
Mhm.
going cuckoo, right? And so, what you have to do is learn to celebrate the wins, right? And also to realize that everything happens for a reason. Okay, that person just wants to try another provider. It's not the end of the world, because as soon as I lose one, I'm going to gain one or two. So it all kind of balances itself out. But yeah, the main thing is finding ways to step away sometimes. And I'm guilty of this. Like, I think my entrepreneurial life bleeds over into my life, right?
Mhm.
And you do have to set boundaries. For example, I have, because most of my clients are teachers, they love to try to call me at 6:30 in the morning when they're on the way to school. They love to do that. I
It's
love
like,
y'all teachers, but no. So
mhm.
they want to try to call because it's convenient for whom? For them,
Yeah.
right? And my first, because I'm a people person. My first inclination is, oh, this is Miss So and so. I'm sure she just wants to ask me a quick question, and I'm still laying in the bed talking on the phone. That makes no sense, right? So you have to set boundaries. Like, just like if you were going into a work office, 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or whatever makes sense for you, but
Mhm.
you got to have those boundaries, because otherwise you're teaching your clients how to treat you, and you're sending the message, "Sure, child, you can call me at 5 a.m., midnight. It doesn't matter. I don't need sleep." Yes, you do. You need sleep. You need rest. You need to be able to recharge. You need to be able to step away. Um, I know some people who are really good at this, and they even turn their phones off for 2 hours a day to answer emails and things. I'm not there yet. Like, I just kind of rotate around through things, but I definitely feel, set boundaries, find ways to step away, and
Mhm.
keep your emotional stability through the waves. Don't get too thrilled about the great stuff, and don't get too low over the disappointments, because that's what it's gonna be. There are going to be highs and there are going to be lows, and it's okay.
Thank you for sharing, Doretha. So you all welcome. We have a couple of minutes left. This is a 30-minute platform.
Mm.
I see a couple of you on here, several of you on here. Thank you, Deborah Carr, for your comments. So excited
Oh,
about
that's
this
my friend
interview.
Deb.
Okay, awesome, remarkable. You all, I am in Florida. The AC went out. Lord help me, but I still had to do this interview. So forgive all this here.
You look
Um,
pretty.
Do-
You're glowing.
Thank you, right?
Can I
um,
say one
oh,
final thing, Pearl?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that the question that people ask me all the time about entrepreneurship is, well, how do you decide on what kind of business to start, right? And, I might not be the best person to ask, because I'm not one of those people that would say, oh, pick one thing and drill down. I have a lot of interests, and I don't box myself in, right? Which is why my company is called Dream. Well, my husband and I have Dream Big Youth Travel, right? And as I said, it's college tours, and it's evolved too. It's evolved into educational field trips, and it's evolved into college readiness seminars and workshops and all that stuff as well. So we do more than just tours, right? We give you the whole college wraparound, right? My business is Doretha White Entities. The reason why I call it entities is because I have more than one thing that defines my the things that I feel like I can offer to the world. And so that's why, my books, my writing is a part of that's one of my entities. My publishing, I'm a publisher. I've published for 7 other people. So publishing, travel is under my entities business. I love to travel. So my travel company falls under that. Oh, thank you. Yes. And also, I'm starting a podcast in September. So I have, my podcasting I'm going to be doing. I do business coaching, which means, people who have a business idea who are like, girl, I don't even know where to start. Help me out. I've had, entrepreneurs that I've helped them to launch their businesses. So I have a lot of things, and I used to listen to the message of, well, you can't do too many things because it's gonna, you got to get good at one thing. I'm good at a lot of things, and I'm not, and I don't say that in a boastful way. I say that in a way that I truly feel like God has given me a lot of different talents and gifts, and I'm not gonna shut 3 of them down just because somebody said I should, right? One of my favorite quotes is Jay-Z, and he said the best thing we ever did was we didn't listen to anybody. And I just feel like it resonates with me. I listen to people, but I listen also for the voice on the inside. Does what somebody's advice to me, is it resonating with my voice on the inside? Because you can ask 4 people for their advice and you'll get 4 different pieces of advice. So then how in the world do you decide what to do? You have to have enough confidence in the voice on the inside. Yeah. So I just like to share, that my journey is a little different, maybe from other people's journeys. I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of things that bring me joy, and a lot of things that I feel like I can offer to people in terms of business service. And I enjoy rotating them around. Like some of them I might put on the shelf, for a few months while I focus on something else, but I haven't put it away totally. So my publishing, for example, I'm not really doing publishing right now. I did publishing for 3 years straight, and I published like 8 books in 3 years. And I was like, "Ooh, Lord, ooh, I got to take a little break from that and focus." So now I'm focusing on my curriculum writing and my podcast, which is coming out in September. So,
Yeah, well, let me stop you right there, Doretha, because I think your podcast is going to be amazing. Because just watching you speak, and I'm laughing because, and forgive me, Doretha, you know how you said they said you know how to talk. I'm just sitting there laughing like, oh yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
see it now. She definitely does. That is one of her gifts. But I also want to round out with, you were talking about intuition and listening to that voice. What if someone is having a problem with that voice, like connecting with that voice? How do they connect with that? How do they gain confidence and reassurance that that
you just
voice
have to
is.
try. Like, so here's the thing. I feel that getting good at listening to your own voice, it takes practice. And you just have to step out. And it's like we trust other people, but you got to trust yourself too. And I think you just have to practice. So here's an example. Um, if you have an idea for a business and you feel like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, what if it's a flop, right? I think some people just kind of have a naturally pessimistic view. And I say to people, well, yeah, it could flop. Like everything you do as an entrepreneur is a risk. Like there's no guarantee it's going to go well, but there's a possibility that it'll go well. And what if you put in your best energy and your best effort? What happens then? It could work, right? So I feel like, okay, and I'm going to use one of my friends as an example. She might be watching. She's a great baker. And she's like, I want to bake my cakes and I want to bake my cupcakes. And I'm like, girl, go for it. She started doing it, and guess what? She's getting orders. She's getting orders for her cakes, or cupcakes. She's doing that as something kind of on the side to her real estate, you know. So my thing is trust. Trust yourself. Trust yourself more than anybody, right? Because you got to live with you. At the end of the day, you know, when you're my age, when you're 55, you know, you don't want to look back and go, man, I wish I had tried that business. Shoot, you know, it might have worked. It might have. But you won't know if you don't try.
And then also the thing is, Doretha, you learn things on the way. And I think that's the adventure of life,
Oh
right?
my
You're following
gosh.
this inner compass and it may not go the way that you intended it to go. I think you made a great quote that God, you said, what? Let man make plans and watch God laugh or something like that.
Man
Yeah.
plans and God laughs at us. He's like, that's funny because that's not how this is about to go.
Yeah. So, you know, just having that adventure and not living in your comfort zone and stepping out of your comfort zone so that you can grow stronger.
Yes. A
So,
hundred percent.
Doretha, I want to thank you so much just for joining us and having an amazing chat, girl. You are a star. I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, look at this woman talk. So I'm looking forward to your platform, to this next podcast era
Thank
for you
you.
and
Well,
other
everybody, the
things.
podcast is called Adulting 101. And it's
Adulting
all about, yeah, it's
101.
all about the adulting journey from being a teenager into that into independence of being a young adult. So,
Okay.
you know, I have a book called All the Stuff Your Parents Meant to Teach You But Never Got Around to It. And the podcast is the partner to the book.
I love it.
And all of that stuff together this fall. I'm looking for some eager young adults that will pilot it with me. So I'll share that with you, Pearl. I'm really looking for about 150 young adults that'll go through the whole curriculum with me. I think they'll learn a lot. You know, I say this. I want to be everybody's favorite auntie, right? Because I feel that I've told my kids this. You know, there were a lot of things that when I was growing up I couldn't talk to my parents about. Right, my parents were older. My mom was 43. My dad was 45 when I was born. So it was a lot of stuff that I just kind of suffered in silence. I just couldn't ask my parents because I was like, I can't ask them that, you know. And I vowed to myself that when I became a parent, that I wasn't going to be a pearl clutching parent. I was going to be a parent that, you know, nothing is going to shock me, surprise me. And I think as an educator, there's just not a whole lot I haven't seen, heard, or seen, you know, gone through myself. And, you know, when I say that, I want young adults to realize whatever you're facing, you're going through, it feels like it's just you, but it's never just you. My mom used to say, you might be the first, but you won't be the last. There's always somebody who's been through what you're going through, and I want young adults to know that there are older adults who care and who they can talk to and who will listen and who will just help them navigate. So that's what the book is about, is navigating your young adult life. You know, those years between 16 to about 28, those years can feel like dog years, you know, because it's like you got all these big decisions to make and these choices and where to go to college and who to date and who to be friends with, who not to be friends with, where to go, where to hang out, where not to hang out, all these constant questions. And I feel like, you know, I want to be a person who can help young adults to navigate that. So that was the reason why I wrote the book. And that's the reason why the podcast is coming, because I want it to be a place, a safe space for young adults to be able to ask literally anything. It can be about relationships, about, you know, sexuality, about work, professionalism, education. It is gonna literally run the gamut. And it's gonna get real, and it's gonna get raw. I know it is. And I'm okay with that because we need a safe space for those types of conversations to happen.
And you were reading my mind with that safe space. That's what came to mind.
Safe
So
space.
any young people ages 16 to 28 that are watching this and want to follow you, how can they follow you? How can they contact you?
Yep. So they can go to my socials. I'm on Facebook, Doretha, middle initial H White. And they can find me on Instagram at Doretha underscore INC. That's DORETHA underscore INC.
Mhm. Well, Doretha, thank you for the work that you're doing. I look forward to us connecting again in the future somehow.
Yes, yes.
Um, yes, and anything you need from me in terms of your platform, we have our Leadership Expo happening September 22nd.
I
Uh,
plan to be there. I plan to be
yes,
there. Great work that you're doing too. And listen, I've watched you over the years. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing with young people. It all fits together. My son models. And so I know that modeling and speaking, it has really brought him out of his shell. So I applaud what you're doing as well, Pearl. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
wonderful. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Leading Ladies, and we will